With me now is Guy Saint-Jacques, former Canadian ambassador to China. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
So what's your take on these claims that there was foreign interference in the last election? Do they seem plausible to you?
Well, I think they are very plausible. In fact, we have to look at this in the overall context of the attempts by China to interfere in Canadian life, political life, and the academic life among the Chinese diaspora. And what we have seen since Xi Jinping came to power 10 years ago is increased budgets, more attempts to influence public opinion abroad, with a special focus on Chinese diaspora. And in fact, with the revelations made in Canadian newspapers in recent weeks, I think when you put all this together, you see that we are faced with a systematic problem in terms of the Chinese government trying to change the course of the electoral process.
What do you make of the way the Liberal government have been handling these reports, these allegations?
Well, I think the report that came out yesterday, signed by Mr. Rosenberg, is a first step. But I would say that it's limited in its scope, and it's like if it's looking just at the tip of the iceberg. What is important is to look at what is below the water. And we know that there have been lots of attempts by the Chinese government to influence the course of the election in specific ridings. They focus on those ridings that have a high percentage of Canadians of Chinese origin. And the one problem is the use of WeChat to spread disinformation, and there are other aspects that were revealed with regard to financing of candidates, providing support in terms of so-called volunteers that were paid by companies. And when you put all this together, this undermines the integrity of the electoral process. And I think that what is required at this stage is a full inquiry. And of course, because it involves sensitive intelligence that was gathered by CSIS, I would suggest that it be chaired by a former Supreme Court justice like Justice Arbour. I would have a lot of confidence in her. And the last thing I would say is that, in fact, despite all the reports of CSIS, the government has done very little in the last few years to counter Chinese interference in the electoral process.
What would an inquiry achieve?
Well, an inquiry could confirm the extent of the interference. I just mentioned Chinese students volunteering to work. I assume that each candidate had a roster of volunteers. These people should be questioned, interviewed to see what can be learned from this. In fact, a justice like Mrs. Arbour could look at the top secret information that came out of CSIS, look at this question of transfer of money, and look into this. Also, what I'm afraid is that the people like Mr. Rosenberg are not aware of the extent of disinformation that goes on Chinese social media like WeChat, and I think. So the first phase would be to look at everything that has been learned to confirm that it did take place, and the second part would be to come up with recommendation to prevent future interference. And for instance, the justice could look at the experience of Australia that was faced with a similar problem about 5 years ago. They adopted 4 laws to try to prevent Chinese interference. And I think that these measures could be put in place before the next election to avoid repetition, because otherwise, I think, from what we have learned so far, there is a lot of doubt about the integrity of our electoral system. And if we are true to our democratic values, we have to clear the air. And in my view, only a full investigation with clear parameters, and that would allow, again, the justice to look at confidential, sensitive information. But this would be, in my view, the only way at this stage to get to the bottom of the problem.
Guy Saint-Jacques is the former Canadian ambassador to China. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Glad you could be with us to discuss this very important issue today.